Hello and welcome to the NTI PodTalk. My name is Dianne Kaler and I'm Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute. Join me as I talk to interesting people in the field of health and wellness, food and farming, and anywhere else we find conversations that matter to our community. By listening, you'll learn a little about NTI and a lot about the things and people around you that make a difference for your wellness. Welcome and let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the NTI PodTalk. This is Dianne Kaler, the Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute, and I am so happy to welcome someone who I've known for many years, Erin Livers, to the PodTalk because Erin and I have I was trying to think about it, Erin. I feel like we've known each other for more than 20 years. We have a common early educational path that we were on together, and I feel like it was more than 20 years ago. So
Definitely.
it's so nice to have you and be able to talk about what you're doing now. And so, anyways, welcome, and then we'll get into it.
Thank you so much, Dianne. Nice to see you again.
Yes, you
And
too.
lovely to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you. All right, so um, let's start as so many people do with your background and why are you even interested in this field of health and wellness and with a particular focus on nutrition and all the ways in which our diet affects our health?
Yeah, so Dianne, I think I was interested in food and how it affected us and our health from a very young age. And it built over the years, I think a huge influence from both of my grandparents. On my maternal side, my grandfather was a farmer, a gardener, and a horticulturist by trade.
Oh, wow.
So I learned quite a lot about growing plants and growing food. Interestingly, he was responsible for growing all the food for a school for boys in the Midwest. And at times there were over 1,000 boys at this school. They
Wow.
lived in the school, and that was how they were fed. So he had to take care of the animals. There were orchards. So it was a huge operation. And learning about that from a young age really kind of set the tone for me.
Mhm.
And then on my paternal side, my grandmother was quite overweight. She was a candy maker, and
Oh.
I think she gained and lost over 100 pounds several times. So it was a real journey with her. And she had a very like connected way of thinking about food and love. So the way that she showed how much she loved you was to feed you, usually lots of sugar. And
Mhm.
so it was just a very different perspective that I had growing up from my grandparents, who I was very close to. So when I was in college, I decided to take a nutrition class thinking I may become a nutritionist. And that class could not have been more off-putting. It
Yes.
was all about numbers,
Yes.
calories in, calories out. And, meanwhile, I was shopping at the food co-op and making my own yogurt, making my own mayonnaise, and eating all organic. This is back in in 1980. And the girl sitting next to me in class who was eating her chili con carne out of a can that came out of a machine on campus was getting a
Mhm.
better grade in the class than I was. And I was just appalled by the whole thing.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I took a little break, became a graphic designer for 15 years, and then just a series of synchronistic events led me to decide to study nutrition. I looked at my coffee table and I no longer had books on graphic design and computers. They were all health oriented books and magazines. And I was like, maybe I should pay attention to this.
Mhm, mhm. So interesting. I don't think I know. Where did you go to college?
I went to college at Indiana University and got my bachelor's in journalism and fine arts.
Nice.
So
Okay.
that was my initial
Yeah.
education.
Yeah. I had a similar experience in college. I went to CSU in Fort Collins,
Ah,
Colorado State University, which has a very prominent dietetics program.
yes.
And I wasn't going to school for dietetics, but I was going to school for marketing and merchandising. Because, I thought my life's dream was to work in retail, which once I finally got there, I realized, oh, this is not a very good thing. But anyways, side note.
Right.
So when I was in my degree courses, of course, you take electives. And so I took a Nutrition 101 course, and
Right.
huge, classroom, over 100 students. And it was, like theater seating, and they had a stage and all this kind of stuff. It was just huge. And I had the exact same experience. It was so like I left that course being like, oh my God, this is the most boring thing. It was all numbers, it was all counting, it was numbers of grams of fat and carbohydrates, and you had to calculate how many grams of each of the macronutrients were in this meal, how many grams of the macronutrients are in this meal. And it was like, here's how you make nutrition plans for people in hospitals and schools. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. And I only took it because, I needed an elective, but at some level, I really didn't have any interest, like you had from your growing up. My grandfather also had a farm. My grandmother grew most of her own food, but it didn't really strike me as something that was like a passion at that point. So I really only took that elective just because I don't know why. It seemed like probably at the time, knowing myself, I probably thought, oh, well, this will be easy.
An easy A.
Yeah. So, but it was so boring. And I just, now I look back on that, and I just marvel at the fact that how did I end up where I am when my initial
Right.
introduction to it was such a off-putting, unpleasant experience. But here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah. All right. So you have, a lot of background and a lot of history in a lot of different things that you have done in this field of nutrition
Sure.
and wellness. I think one of the things that you maybe are most well known for is your book that you wrote and program, and I have a copy of your book here.
Oh, there it is.
Revitalize Digestion, Anti-Inflammatory Diet and Gut Healing Program, a guidebook for practitioners and their clients. So, um, this is a book that details a program.
Yes.
So, can you talk about kind of why do we need, why is there, like, what's the need for the program, and kind of how you
Sure.
came to that that decision to create this program, and then kind of give us some top level features of your program.
Sure. So, in the late 2000s, I was really recommending that a naturopathic doctor who was a good friend of mine, very hardcore recommending that he hire me as his nutritionist in his office.
Mhm.
And we all know that that a lot of doctors are reticent to do that, thinking, well, I do nutrition, so why should I hire a nutritionist? And so I was very clear about all the ways that he wasn't really doing nutrition. When was the last time he gave someone a recipe, for example?
Right, right,
And he's like, well,
right.
I'm kind of a bachelor in that area. And I'm like, exactly. You're telling them to spread something on toast.
Right, right.
So finally, he took me up on it. He hired me in his office as an independent contractor. And about that time, this was 2011, and about that time, we were hearing more and more in the educational space, because back then there weren't webinars, we really weren't on the internet a lot. So if you wanted to learn something, it was going to conferences, going to lectures. And luckily, the Boulder, Denver area had quite a bit of education, mostly from supplement companies. And one of the big topics that we were hearing about was gut repair.
Mhm.
And it was just starting to be talked about. And it was coming from this place of us learning, maybe for the first time in the last 5 or so years previous, about leaky gut,
Yeah,
gut permeability. And
right.
so when we learned that due to stress and overtraining and poor diet and inflammatory foods and a whole host of other things, maybe gut infections, that were causing this condition that was fairly transient, it could come and go, known as leaky gut. And that's where food sensitivities might come from. It's where a lot of symptoms might come from. And it was really a compromise to health. What we would later then learn was that this would affect every other system of the body because the gut was so integral to health. And so Dr. Dorninger and I went to a presentation on gut repair together. And at the end of that presentation, he said, I want you to design a gut repair program, and I want you to guide every one of my patients through it, which is what I did for the next 4 years. So I worked in his office from 2011 to about 2015, somewhere in 2015. And through that time, I guided over 400 people through. That really gave me a lot of experience and a lot of experimenting. So the first 200 people that he referred to me and I would guide through this program, we would do a stool test before and after. So what was really nice about that is it gave me a chance to see, or both of us to see, which supplements are working really well for supporting good bacteria, eliminating any gut infections, working to repair that leaky gut condition, lower inflammation. And so what I had done is I had designed a program that was a 3-week elimination diet. And that elimination diet eliminated the most common foods that could cause inflammation. So my goal was to lower inflammation very quickly in that 3-week period, so people could really feel better because their inflammation was lower if that inflammation was coming from their diet. And then on top of that, there was a supplement protocol that typically included an antimicrobial supplement, herbal, a combination of herbs, and that could be antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic, and then that would be combined with reparative supplements like L-glutamine or DGL, D-glycyrrhizinated licorice. And those oftentimes together, or, every client was an individual, but oftentimes those were the reparative supplements that were used to, again, help calm that inflammation and help with the repair of that gut lining. And then there was also a probiotic supplement. Today, we might throw in something like butyrate to support short chain fatty acids. So this supplement protocol can very much be targeted for that individual, depending on what they're dealing with, their state of health, what our goals are for this gut repair program. The infection might be an overgrowth of bacteria in the colon. It might be H. pylori bacteria in the stomach. So there could be just a wide variety of conditions that we're addressing. State of health, someone might just simply be experiencing digestive symptoms because of an undiscovered gluten sensitivity. So a number of clients who went through the program simply gave up gluten, and on the other end of the program, after challenging foods back in, discovered gluten was indeed the source of their issues, and they were 21 and off and running again.
Mm.
But there may be clients with celiac disease or irritable bowel syndrome, which is kind of a collection of, we don't really know what's going on. And so my goal, of course, was to get underneath and really see what was going on there. But it could be inflammatory bowel disease, colitis, or Crohn's disease. So there could be a real variety of health issues that are getting addressed or supported along with this protocol. So after a 21-day elimination diet where foods such as grains, beans, nuts, seeds, eggs, pork, seaweed, nightshade vegetables, these types of foods are eliminated. So what's left is mostly meat, poultry, fish, seafood, most vegetables, most fruits, and coconut. And so for 21 days, they would eat that diet. And at first they were white knuckling it because, I only had so much time to say, you could eat this or you could eat that. After that 21 days, then I would meet with them for a second time. The first time was introducing them to the program, getting them whatever support materials I could. And then the second meeting would be before that 21-day diet ended. And I logged so many comments from people. And the gist of it was, I really haven't felt this good in a very long time. I
Mm.
feel so much better. The number one comment that I got in terms of symptoms, which really surprised me because I expected the digestive symptoms to be the most talked about. But the most popular comment I heard was, my joint pain is gone.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting because
Anti-inflammatory.
yes, we get a lot of people who, or clients for me that will say things like, well, I have arthritis, but that's just because I'm getting older. And I'm like, no,
Right.
no, no.
Right.
We don't, it isn't normal to have joint pain just because you're older. So
Mm.
that was a really common comment is my joints feel so much better. My
Mhm.
digestive symptoms are gone. I'm feeling better in this myriad of symptoms. And then in that appointment, I would teach them how to challenge foods back into their diet, which is fairly adding one food at a time. But there are some foods that I really noticed people didn't have much issue with. Beans and nuts and seeds, for instance. Um, Really, out of over 1,200 people who I've now guided through the program, I would say that it's literally like 3 people who have had issues with lectins in like
Mm.
beans and nuts and seeds. And that was also surprising to me because
Mhm.
here it popularized that we need to be avoiding lectins. And I just have not found that to be as true
Right.
that
Right.
lectins are the problem, although I have had some clients who have had that issue. So
Mhm.
again, this program is good at determining that, whether that's
Right.
the issue or not.
Mhm.
So some foods like beans and nuts and seeds can get added back into as a group so pretty quickly. But other foods like the non-gluten grains, gluten, dairy, those kinds of foods, eggs, soy, potatoes, get added back fairly one at a time because they're the most common offenders, so to speak.
Mhm.
And then my program guides the nutritionist or the holistic health professional who is guiding their clients through this to meet with them a third time to wrap everything up, and help them design a diet going forward that is anti-inflammatory for them. So this is the program that I designed and tweaked over the years. And then in 2018, put all of my pieces of paper that I was photocopying at Kinko's and handing out and adding recipes to every chance I got, put together this Revitalize Digestion book, which has 125 recipes that help both the practitioner have a support for their clients and then the client themselves who's going through the program to be able to know what am I going to have for breakfast and lunch.
Mhm.
And there's 3 basic rules, which is you are going to eat 3 meals a day and you are going to get adequate protein, which the practitioner will calculate for you based on your size and your activity level. and you will eat a serving of leafy, crunchy, and starchy vegetables at every meal.
Mm.
So a friend of mine said she was going to get me a t-shirt that said leafy, crunchy, starchy on it. Because I'm always telling my clients to do that at meals during this program.
Mhm.
So that it was very instrumental in my early days of working with a naturopath. I'd already been a nutritionist for 10 years at that point, but it really helped me to understand digestion, understand gut repair, and all of the myriad different symptoms that could come from digestion, and then all of the other areas of the body that could be affected by poor digestion.
Mhm.
And it's really come to the point where in my private practice, the first thing I'm evaluating my clients for is, am I going to guide them through gut repair? Is this something that they need? And I would say a vast majority of my clients, I do guide them through gut repair first, because so many issues are resolved as a
Yeah.
result of that.
Mhm.
And the other very primary thing that I'm focusing on in my business is blood sugar regulation.
Mhm. Okay, so I do want to talk about blood sugar regulation.
Yeah.
There's a little bit, before we get there, you have
Yes.
a little bit of a difference maybe when you're working with someone who has SIBO, which is a gut disruption
Yes.
condition. But talk about how that's different from kind of the other types of gut dysfunction and gut repair needs that people
Sure.
have.
Absolutely. So just about every digestive condition that I've come up against, the gut repair program, Revitalize Digestion, works beautiful for that. But and then I was oftentimes customizing, making a few changes to the elimination diet to individualize for a particular person or a particular health issue. But the bulk of the people that I've guided through have just very much gone through the program as it is.
Mm-hmm.
In, I would say, trying to think of when this was, it was probably around 2010, so maybe 10 to 14 years ago. Might have been more like 2014. No, I guess it would have been about 2015. I started to hear about this condition, SIBO,
Mm-hmm.
small intestine bacterial overgrowth, and just really took a deep dive and wound up with a client who had SIBO and needed to figure out, how do I help this person? And in the early days, I did take them through the gut repair program. However, the elimination diet that I've designed for that program really doesn't it doesn't overlap well with the low FODMAP diet.
Yeah,
So
right.
there is a therapeutic diet known as the low FODMAP diet, and I'm not going to be able to remember what FODMAP stands for.
Fermentable
Yes.
oligo and disaccharides and polyols.
And polyols,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So these fermentable sugars
Mm-hmm.
are what feed the bacteria that has wound up in the wrong
Mm-hmm.
place. So in other words, these are normal bacteria that do occur in our digestive tract, but typically in our colon. And
Mm-hmm.
for some people, they wind up in the small intestine, one level up the digestive tract, and shouldn't
Right.
be there,
Yeah.
because the small intestine and the large intestine are very different environments. The small intestine is an aerobic environment, colon is anaerobic. And so these bacteria should live in very different environments. And there are probably about 25 different things that can cause or contribute to this happening. And we don't understand fully um, how someone is acquiring this SIBO, although it makes sense that things like low hydrochloric acid, allopathic medicine refers to SIBO as post-infectious IBS.
Yeah.
So oftentimes people acquire this condition of SIBO after a bout of what they might call food poisoning. Um,
Right.
Post-surgery can be an issue. And then there can be some other health conditions in the clinic I'm working with. We're seeing a real correlation between SIBO and CIRS being CIRS, or chronic inflammatory response syndrome, that people get as a result of exposure to toxins. So we're seeing a real combination there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this started to come up and I started to dive in, and after leaving the integrative clinic with Dr. Dorninger in 2015, I came back in 2021. And in 2021, there were a lot more SIBO patients in the clinic, and we had to practice essentially to really get to the point where we could eliminate this condition. And the protocol that we use now for SIBO is either antibiotic treatment or herbal antimicrobial treatment. But what we found is one of the keys that really helps this condition not to recur, which it famously can recur in people, is visceral manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a type trained in practitioners are trained at the Barrel Institute, Barral. And
Yeah.
this Barrel Institute visceral manipulation, when that is done in, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions, so that this can really help relax and remove adhesions and do all sorts of things to really help the manipulation of the digestive organs, that tends to really help it not recur. Now, a low FODMAP diet will not get rid of the bacteria. It can help starve out the bacteria if you're
Right.
very strict, but it's also a very restrictive diet
Yeah.
and can be very harmful if clients are on that diet for too
Too
long.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, so in our clinic, and for me, what I recommend is that people follow the low FODMAP diet as they need to, because there are 5 different categories of FODMAPs, and some people notice that a category or 2 is not causing them symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can really determine what foods are giving them symptoms before their treatment, then they can kind of customize that low FODMAP diet, relieve their symptoms until they get treatment. Treatment is usually 2 weeks of antibiotics and 30 days of herbal antimicrobial supplements. And then in our clinic, the 30 days post treatment, we recommend a strict low FODMAP diet, but just for those 30 days. So
Mm-hmm.
that will help starve out any remaining bacteria, and then they can start adding those FODMAP foods back in. And because this is very much the protocol that is helping people to alleviate this condition, it just doesn't overlap with the gut repair program. So
Mm-hmm.
this is why I have seen that this other treatment protocol works so much better than anything like an elimination diet. So that's where this particular digestive condition has a very different protocol for resolution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good explanation. And I have had clients on low FODMAPs diet, and it is really restrictive. And
Yeah.
that's another challenge that people have in sticking with it for even that 30 days that may be necessary. So but can be helpful, definitely. All right, so let's get back to blood sugar, because blood sugar, and sort of metabolic dysfunction, which I think blood sugar, um, dysregulated blood sugar and metabolic dysfunction, I think, go hand in hand, and in many ways are
Absolutely.
the same thing. So, latest statistics, anywhere between something like 87 and 92% of the population has, impaired metabolism or metabolic dysfunction. So a huge percentage of the population probably has some sort of blood sugar dysregulation. So talk about why that has an impact on someone's goals to achieve digestive wellness and other body systems, and kind of what are some of the strategies that you help them to implement?
Sure, sure. So what's interesting to me as early in my practice with addressing blood sugar, which I saw that right away that was something that my clients needed. Um, I kind of had this viewpoint that people with dysregulated blood sugar would all be eating candy and overeating sugar all the time. And that was what was causing it. And all they had to do was just stop eating sugar. That was kind of my bias when I came into this. And then I realized that that really wasn't the bulk of the problem. The bulk of the problem was people just literally not eating balanced meals regularly throughout the day. And that sounds so simple as a solution, but so many people just don't understand what a balanced meal is. I mean, I literally had one client say, I just have to stop you here because you keep talking about a meal. What's a meal?
Oh.
My head exploded because
Mhm.
I think we're getting a few generations in now of people who didn't learn how to cook growing up.
Yes.
And that really impairs blood sugar imbalance in my estimation,
Mhm.
because it really is just about eating regularly and a balanced meal, meaning about half your plate carbohydrates, focusing on vegetables, of course. And but that could be grains and beans and some other foods and some refined grains as well. And again, finding out how much refined grain you can eat, that is also helpful in this process. And then you need to calculate how many grams of protein you need, as I said earlier, based on your size and your activity level. And that's usually about 20% or less of your calories. And then, the other 35% is fat. So just having that balance. And what I really find helpful, and from my philosophy, is I just want to train people to look at a plate of food and to go, wow, that looks delicious. I don't really
Mhm.
want people eating by the numbers and,
Mhm.
diving into it in such a kind of harsh and numbers way.
Mhm.
But some level of education needs to happen. And
Mhm.
I would say after a good 10 years, and then of course, partnering with Dr. Dorninger, he learned a body typing system at Bastyr, the school that he graduated from, the naturopathy school there. And it was um, based on the book, and I think I have the book right here. It's by Dr. Elliot Abravanel, and it's called Dr. Abravanel's Body Type Diet and Lifetime Nutrition Plan. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you, it was hard for me to adopt this
Uh-huh.
because to me, it didn't always make sense. But I was seeing the world through the lens of my own body type and
Mhm.
kind of felt like that's the way everyone should eat. And what I was
Mhm.
discovering is that once I figured out that there were about 4 different body types, very similar to the ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph type style of typing people's bodies, and there's
Mhm.
many other systems out there. But
Mhm.
this system, combined with some other perspectives that Dr. Dorninger and I have from our Chinese medicine background as well, where some people come from a more deficient body type. So the deficient body types tend to be thinner, smaller boned, high metabolism, struggle more with blood sugar. And then there's more the excessive body types. And the excessive body types tend to not need to eat in the same way, and be much faster to build muscle and bone and not have struggle with as many blood sugar issues. So once I started incorporating the body types into my evaluation of my clients and helping them to eat in this regular, balanced way, I found that oftentimes a very large number of symptoms that people would come to me with between gut repair and blood sugar balance, and those symptoms were gone. So, different levels of fluctuating energy throughout the day, headaches. I mean, it could be digestive issues, skin issues, more stress, more allergies, things like that. Are, blood sugar is really kind of at the root of all
Yeah.
of this in our health.
Yeah.
And being able to maintain a healthy weight, absolutely. So this played a big role, the body typing system and focusing on blood sugar balance with every single one of my clients, in me feeling like I had a very high level of confidence in my ability to help my clients with their health goals.
Yeah, that's, very, very much, I very much resonate with all of that. And certainly that, those are things that our students and graduates would be very familiar with, those same principles and strategies and understandings about the impact of blood sugar balance, gut
Yes.
health, all those kinds of things. I am really interested though, because you recently reached out to let us know, and this is where I want to make a connection
Yeah,
with our community. And that is, I'm interested in hearing about your weekly mentor program that you've been doing, because, I would love it if our community could, from students and graduates from NTI could connect with you and be able to see how all the things that we're teaching, right, and all the things that are part of our curriculum, you're implementing them, and to be able to see how that's happening and be able to get mentorship from you. So can you talk about that program and what you're doing in that?
absolutely. So about 2 years ago, I found that training new nutritionists for the clinic that I work in. So we have a team of about 5 nutritionists now, and I've been training the people that I've hired, who have been hired after me. And then some other colleagues that were good friends of mine who were, stepping up either in their own business or getting hired in clinics and needed just, who do I ask this question of?
Mhm.
And it's great when nutritionists can partner with doctors, but even then, sometimes they're not getting a full answer, they're getting a short answer. And so I started with a weekly mentor group, and I started with a curriculum that was called Build the Business You Love. And we really talked about how do you identify your values, your purpose, your goals, what are the projects you want to work on? And so how do you achieve these things? Talked about counseling with confidence and just some other things that were more business oriented. And each week the mentor group is on Fridays, and it starts at noon Mountain Time and goes until 2 p.m. So it's 2 hours every week on Fridays. And one other feature of the kind of the training that I'm doing is anyone can ask any question. So we start with questions, Q&A, and then there's some sort of teaching training. We just finished going through quite a number of weeks talking about popular diets. And I was teaching a class at the Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism here in Louisville, Colorado, for many years in popular diets. And by the time I ended that class, there were like 70 different popular diets that we were touching on. And it was a very interesting class. But that is going to transition into us talking about therapeutic diets. So the low histamine diet, the low FODMAP diet, the specific carbohydrate diet, the GAPS diet, all of those, because I use those on a weekly basis in my practice. And I need to know those diets inside and out and how they work and how to apply them. And then we've taken a little interlude here, and we've probably spent about 4 weeks talking about blood chemistry. And not only what does this mean and what does that mean, but how to spot patterns and how to think about it and how to use this information to support your clients. So there's a lot of topics that we go through in terms of when you're sitting there alone at your desk and you've got 3 clients that you're working on that week, and it all seems a little overwhelming. And how do I sort this out? And what does this mean? And they maybe just something that's like a little speed bump that you just need to get over so that you can, keep going to really help this client. And that's what the group really affords, is this way to ask questions, get your questions answered, and just keep going in your practice. And it also, I think, is very helpful for people to learn something new. So I've been guiding people through this mentor group for 2 years now. Anyone can join at any time. Right now, the cost of the program is $35 a month, so it is very reasonable. And I'm getting ready to take it to a bigger step. I have a platform that is like very similar to kind of a Facebook community platform that we will end up at. Right now, we're just doing Zoom, and I post replays. But this will be replays. Will have an app. You'll be able to listen to those, and then we'll have our own community where we can message, and then we'll have the weekly 2-hour meetings. So I'm getting ready to kind of take it to its next level. In 2 years, it's gotten a little bit more popular. Still only have about 10 people in the group, but we just love it so much that we're just really enjoying the opportunity to talk about some of these topics.
Wow, that's amazing. Sounds like an awesome research. I hope some of our grads take advantage of that. So
yes, and
yeah.
I don't have a landing page for it yet. I'm very close, but if anyone wants to join, all they have to do is email me at Erin, ERIN, at foodasnourishment.com. And that is my business name, Food as Nourishment. And so it's just Erin at foodasnourishment.com. And just let me know you're interested in the mentor group, and you can join us on Fridays.
Great. Well, and that was going to be my last question, is how can people connect with you? So besides your personal email, give us all of your online presences wherever they may be.
Yes. So currently I have 2 websites. One is foodasnourishment.com, and that is where my clients to be can find me. And then where I would like to direct practitioners to is revitalizedigestion.com. In the coming months, I've already recorded the classes, so to speak. I'm going to be taking the live training that I did several times, even at NTI. I've been teaching this live for probably 10 years, is the Revitalize Digestion program. You held up the book. I got my book here.
Yep.
And the book, you can find it on Amazon, but the program, I'm turning my live classes into an online course that will be available probably, I would say, maybe 3 months from now. And it will be available on revitalizedigestion.com. And it's an online program. There's about 9 classes in it. And it will teach the practitioner everything you need to know to guide your clients through the gut repair program. And it goes in depth into supplements, including brands, very specifically, a variety of different supplement protocols, depending on what your client is dealing with and what their goals are for their digestion, and just shares a lot of my experience. How do you guide a 5-year-old through? How do you guide an 85-year-old through? What if they're an athlete in training? What if they are a CEO of a big company and don't cook? How do you deal with those kinds of individual people and their situation, because it's easy to learn the gut repair. Oh, you just do this, this, and this, but it's more the people's situation and supporting them that sometimes can take a little finesse.
Well, I am going to put a plug in for our graduates of our cooking program who are personal chefs. So that CEO who doesn't cook but needs to have, someone who can cook for them, and utilizing your program, our chefs would be well positioned to be able to do that. So,
Well, and it's funny.
have your
Yeah.
clients take a look at our website,
Well, and
and
it's
our
funny
grads
because
page.
I do that.
Oh, good.
So in this area, if I have clients who want a chef to help them through the gut repair, I do refer them to your website
That's
to
awesome.
find a health professional chef.
Mhm.
And I've also had numerous chefs and would like nothing more to support chefs all around the country taking this program just so that they can learn the diet and cooking for this
Mhm.
program. And
Mhm.
then you can connect up with nutritionists in your area who are guiding their clients through this.
Mhm.
And I will say, through the years, like the first 400 people I guided through, I would say maybe 15%, 10% of them needed a chef. And I had
Mhm.
regular people that I called upon. And sometimes they were cooking every meal and snack for the person for 3 weeks.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for saying that you use our chef
Oh, yeah.
listing on our website, and others can do the same. Um, well, I really appreciate all the work you're doing because, as we all know, those of us who work in this field, the population is only getting sicker.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so what that tells me is there is a greater demand for people like us, which, is unfortunate in a way, because that is a sign that the population is getting sicker, but it's also an indication that uh, it, why it's so important for
Right.
practitioners to get really good training and to have this knowledge. And we're doing that here. You're doing that through all the things you do and your book and your program. And I think it only benefits everyone if we all collaborate and work together. So I am so thrilled to continue to have interactions with you over the many years that we have known each other. And
Yeah.
I really love your program, and I'm so happy to hear of everything you're doing. You're doing amazing things. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Diane, for saying that. That's
Yeah.
lovely. And you're so welcome. I have interacted with so many of your grads over the years, and definitely hire interns at times, and have helped over the last 3 years. I've had an intern each year and have helped them to gain all of their hours, their
Yeah.
indirect and direct hours for their board
For board
certification
certification. Yeah.
with NANP. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always available to interact with graduates for sure,
Great.
and
Great. Thank you.
students alike in the
Yeah.
mentor group
Yeah.
for sure.
Thank you. All
So
right. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day. I really appreciate it.
you're so welcome. Nice to see you again, Diane.
Yeah, you too. Hi, Diane Kaler here again. If you found this conversation interesting and haven't already become a student at NTI, check us out at ntischool.com. We hope to see you soon.